General Hospital spoilers reveal that Anna Devane's kidnapping marks the beginning of a chilling new chapter in General Hospital. One that reveals the terrifying depths of manipulation and obsession festering just beneath the surface of Port Charles. At first, the situation seemed clear. Jack Brennan, an unhinged and dangerous agent within WSB, was acting out of desperation after Anna had threatened to expose his illegal dealings and his recruitment of Jocelyn into dangerous operations. Brennan, a man with a history of violence and coercion, had been a known force of intimidation in the city. His actions, when he abducted Anna, appeared to be a simple case of retribution. A man backed into a corner by the threat of exposure, willing to do anything to silence his accuser. But what began as a predictable response from a man on the edge soon morphed into something far darker, more complicated, and far more dangerous. As Anna's kidnapping unfolded, something became abundantly clear. Brennan was not the true mastermind behind this twisted scheme. His actions, while violent and disturbing, were simply the outer shell of a far more sinister plan. The moment Anna's disappearance was discovered, the investigation into her abduction quickly revealed a chilling truth. Brennan was not the one who had orchestrated it. He was merely a puppet in a much larger game, and this revelation began to shift everything the residents of Port Charles had assumed about their adversaries. The story that had once seemed linear, easy to understand, and rooted in one man's misguided obsession was now revealed to be a tangled web of lies, manipulation, and unseen hands pulling the strings. The true force behind Anna's kidnapping is someone far more calculating, far more ruthless, and far more dangerous than Brennan ever was. Someone whose obsession with control goes beyond simple retribution or power. This person is a shadow in the lives of everyone in Port Charles. A figure whose motives remain unknown but whose influence has already begun to poison everything they touch. For Brennan, his compliance with the abduction was driven by a mix of fear and coercion. But this new player, this new mastermind, acts out of an obsessive desire to rearrange the very foundation of everything Anna and those around her have worked for. The true danger is not simply in the actions that are taking place in the present, but in the understanding that these actions are part of a grand design, one that has been years in the making. Anna's kidnapping is only the latest in a series of increasingly twisted events, each designed to destabilize not just her but the very fabric of the alliances, power structures, and relationships that define the world she inhabits. This new villain, the true architect of Anna, this is no longer about vengeance against Anna or her friends. This is about manipulating the very minds of those who think they are in control. The people who believe themselves to be invulnerable. The ones who thought they knew the enemy, are now waking up to the horrifying realization that they have been played all along. The real battle is not one of physical confrontation, it is one of the mind, where the true antagonist uses fear, guilt, and control to break those who are strongest. The plot behind Anna's abduction takes an even darker turn when we begin to understand the identity of the true villain. While Faison and Victor have both been mentioned as potential sources of this manipulation, the truth is far more elusive, with hints pointing to an unseen mastermind pulling the strings from the shadows. This individual is someone who is not just connected to the underworld of Port Charles but is embedded in the very systems of power, intelligence, and influence that most characters rely on for protection. They are someone whose obsession with Anna is not merely personal, it is ideological, rooted in a deep-seated desire to reshape the world in their image. What makes this villain so dangerous is their understanding of human weakness. They do not need to use brute force to get what they want. They know how to play the long game, how to twist people's desires and fears to their advantage. How to manipulate alliances and friendships with the precision of a master strategist. And as this mastermind pulls the strings, it becomes clear that the true goal is not just to eliminate Anna but to create a ripple effect of chaos, distrust, and confusion in every corner of Port Charles. Every action they take is calculated to achieve the same end, destabilizing the power dynamics and relationships that people have spent years building. It's a game of chess, where the pieces are human lives, and each move is designed to push everyone closer to their breaking point. As Anna is held captive, the question remains, who is truly behind this scheme? And what do they want? The answer is not simply power. This mastermind's goals are more profound. rooted in a twisted sense of control, obsession, and legacy. They are not interested in merely removing Anna from the equation. They are using her as a catalyst for something far more sinister. Every move they make is part of a larger design. A design that aims to reset the order of things in Port Charles and beyond. The danger, however, lies not just in the actions of this mastermind but in the way they manipulate those around them. They do not need to work alone. They have already recruited individuals like Brennan, who serve as unwitting accomplices, pushed into dangerous positions by fear and manipulation. The true threat is in the subtlety of their methods, in their ability to turn allies into enemies and friends into pawns. They have already embedded themselves in the minds of those who once thought they were safe from such manipulation. The longer this mastermind operates unseen, the greater the impact of their plans. And the more the residents of Port Charles will realize just how deeply they have been affected by this hidden force. As Anna remains a captive, her friends and allies scramble to piece together the puzzle of who could be behind her kidnapping. With each passing day, more questions arise, but fewer answers emerge. This mastermind operates not through brute force but through control. Control of information, control of perception, and control of the people who could expose them. They understand that true power lies not in what people see, but in what they believe to be true. And as Anna's disappearance becomes a central point in this new chapter of intrigue, the lines between friend and foe blur, leaving everyone questioning the very nature of their reality. Who can they trust, and who is pulling the strings from the shadows? The new obsession that has taken root in Port Charles is not just one of revenge, but one of profound psychological manipulation. It is an obsession that has been years in the making. A web of deceit, control, and fear that has only now begun to unravel. And as the pieces fall into place, it becomes clear that the true villain is not simply a shadow from the past, but a new force entirely, one that has learned from Faison's manipulations, one that has studied the minds of those who think they are in control, and one that is poised to reshape the very fabric of Port Charles itself. Anna's kidnapping is only the beginning, and as the truth begins to emerge, the scope of this new obsession becomes clearer. This is no longer just about one woman's life, it is about controlling the fate of everyone she loves. And the worst part? This mastermind's work is only just beginning. The darkness that has taken hold of Port Charles is far from over. It is a darkness that has been carefully planned, methodically executed, and is now spreading. No one is safe. And everyone is a potential target in a game where the rules are constantly changing. What began as a simple act of revenge has now turned into an obsession that will change everything, and no one will be able to escape its reach. As the dark web of manipulation tightens around Port Charles, the true mastermind behind the chaos begins to emerge, and it is not who anyone expected. Liesel, a character long seen as a reluctant ally to many, has now been revealed to be the architect of a new and far more dangerous set of operations. What once appeared to be a series of isolated events, Britt's strange behavior, Anna's sudden kidnapping, the ever-looming shadow of Faison, are now part of a larger plan. One that Liesel has been orchestrating from the very beginning. The narrative of power, betrayal, and obsession has taken a new, terrifying turn, and Liesel stands at the center, not as a victim, but as the creator of the chaos threatening to tear Port Charles apart. For years, Liesel has been a character defined by conflict, loyalty to her daughter, resentment toward Faison, and a constant battle between right and wrong. But with the recent revelations, it's become clear that Liesel's actions have not been those of a passive bystander. She has been manipulating events to her own ends, orchestrating the confusion and disorder that is now consuming the town. At first, it seemed as though she was merely protecting Britt from the ghosts of her past, from Faison's influence, but as the layers peel away, it becomes evident that Liesel has been playing a far more sinister game, one with far-reaching consequences. This new obsession is not just a matter of protecting Britt, but of ensuring control over the people and forces in Port Charles that she perceives as threats, or opportunities. Liesel's motivations are rooted in her desire for power, control, and revenge. She knows the weaknesses of everyone around her, Jason, Anna, even Faison's lingering influence. And she knows how to exploit them. Her manipulation of Brennan, her involvement with Valentine, and even her attempts to control the narrative around Brit's life have all been pieces in her larger puzzle, a puzzle that, when fully assembled, will give her the upper hand in a town known for its deadly politics. What has been so devastating about Liesel's role in this new chaos is not just that she has been pulling the strings behind the scenes, but that she has been able to do so while maintaining the facade of being a mother, a mentor, and even an ally. No one suspected her true involvement. Even Jason, who has been relentlessly pursuing the truth, has failed to connect the dots that would lead him straight to Liesel. She has expertly manipulated those around her, using her relationships and her charm to blind them to her true goals. Liesel has spent years perfecting her ability to manipulate and control, and it is only now, as the pieces of her grand plan begin to fall into place, that the true scope of her actions becomes clear. The chaos she has caused in Port Charles is no accident, it is by design. The kidnapping of Anna, the manipulation of Brit, and the escalating tension between various factions in the town have all been carefully planned to destabilize the existing order. Liesel's actions are designed to create confusion, to fracture relationships, and to leave Port Charles in a state of disarray where she can seize control. And as this plan unfolds, it is becoming clear that she is not merely reacting to the actions of others, she is actively engineering the breakdown of trust, the manipulation of alliances, and the emergence of new power structures that will serve her interests. The obsession that Liesel has cultivated is not just about revenge or protection, it is about rewriting the rules. She is creating a new world order, one where she is not merely a character in the background, but the force that drives everything. She has seen the power dynamics shift in Port Charles and has used her position to exploit the cracks, creating new divisions, new alliances, and new opportunities for herself. And in doing so, she has created a cycle of obsession that will not end until she has achieved her ultimate goal. This new obsession is even more dangerous because it is rooted in Liesel's ability to manipulate the people around her. Unlike Faison, who relied on fear and violence, Liesel has learned the art of psychological control. She understands how to use people's weaknesses against them, how to prey on their desires and fears to shape the outcome she wants. The fact that she has been able to do this for so long without anyone noticing speaks to her skill and her growing power. Liesel is not just an accomplice in this new chaos, she is the architect of it. She has planned every move, every turn, every betrayal to ensure that the pieces fall exactly as she desires. What makes Liesel's manipulation so insidious is that she is not acting alone. She has surrounded herself with individuals who unknowingly serve her agenda, people like Valentine, who has been slowly drawn into her web, and people like Brennan, who was used as a pawn to carry out her will. Even Brit, her daughter, is part of the plan, though she remains blissfully unaware of the full extent of her mother's machinations. Liesel's ability to deceive and control is a testament to her intelligence and her ruthlessness. She has created a world where she is both the mastermind and the victim, using her role as a mother and a confidant to manipulate those closest to her. As the true extent of Liesel's involvement becomes clearer, it's evident that her obsession is not only about personal gain, but about achieving a sense of power that has eluded her for years. Her years of playing second fiddle, of being pushed aside by Faison, and of being labeled the villain have all led her to this point, a point where she can finally control her own destiny, and the destiny of those around her. She is no longer the pawn in someone else's game, she is the queen, and Port Charles is her chessboard. The chaos she has created is just the beginning. As Anna remains in the clutches of whoever is behind this new wave of manipulation, and as the truth about Liesel's role in it all continues to come to light, it becomes clear that the town of Port Charles is on the brink of a new order, one that is shaped by Liesel's obsessive desire for control, power, and revenge. She has set in motion a plan that will change everything, a plan that will turn allies into enemies, friends into pawns, and the very foundation of the town into a battleground for her own supremacy. Liesel's obsession is no longer just a personal vendetta, it is a new world order, one that she will stop at nothing to create. The madness she has cultivated has taken root, and it is spreading like wildfire, consuming everything in its path. The rules have changed, And the new obsession that Liesel has fostered will stop at nothing to ensure that she is the one who comes out on top. What began as a simple quest for power has now become a dangerous game. One that will reshape the very fabric of Port Charles and forever change the lives of everyone involved. Liesel has claimed her place at the top, and she will not relinquish it without a fight. Anna Devane has long been a figure of authority, intelligence, and resilience within Port Charles, but beneath her composed exterior, she harbors secrets that could shake the very foundations of the town. Over the years, Anna has navigated through a labyrinth of covert operations, personal betrayals, and dangerous alliances. She is privy to information that could dismantle entire empires, including the dark legacies of figures like Faison and even Valentine. It is this knowledge, this power to expose the hidden truths, that has made her both an invaluable asset and a serious threat to those who would rather keep their secrets buried. As the secrets she holds grow more dangerous, the need to silence her becomes paramount. And it is here, in the shadows of her own silence, that the true mastermind behind the recent chaos begins to emerge, not Faison, not Valentine, but Liesel Albrecht. Liesel, always seen as a secondary player, a pawn in the games of others, is revealed to be the true power behind the WSB. For years, her role had been one of frustration, betrayal, and false alliances. She had been forced into the background, marginalized by the men around her, Faison, Robert, Valentine. She had been underestimated. But what no one realized until now was that Liesel had quietly, carefully, manipulated every single step along the way. Her actions, her allegiances, her manipulations, they were never mere accidents. Liesel had always known what she wanted, and she had bided her time, weaving a network of influence and power that no one could see until it was far too late. The abduction of Anna. An act that initially seemed like a desperate maneuver by a rogue WSB agent, is now exposed as something far more calculated. Anna has become a threat. Not just because of her knowledge of covert operations, but because of her intimate understanding of the inner workings of the WSB itself. Liesel, who has quietly orchestrated the downfall of many, now sees Anna as the final obstacle in her path to absolute control. The abduction is not just a tactic to silence Anna, it is a symbol of Liesel's new role as the true leader of the WSB. A position she has long coveted, but never openly pursued. This new power dynamic is shifting everything, and it's all part of Liesel's grand design. Liesel's ascension to power is no accident. It is the result of years of preparation, of studying the weaknesses of those around her, and of carefully setting the pieces in place for this exact moment. Anna's kidnapping is a pivotal move in this larger strategy, a strategy to eliminate anyone who might challenge Liesel's new authority. It's a brilliant move because, for all the damage Anna could do if she were allowed to speak, her silence now serves Liesel's interests far more effectively. Anna is a threat not only because of what she knows but because of the alliances she has built. Liesel's plan is to break those alliances, discredit Anna, and take control of the WSB from within. By orchestrating Anna's disappearance, Liesel ensures that the power vacuum is filled with her own influence, quietly and decisively. This marks the beginning of a new obsession, a darker, more twisted obsession, one where Liesel is not just a puppet master behind the scenes, but the driving force of every operation, every decision. The power struggle that has defined General Hospital for years is reaching its climax, and Liesel is ready to seize control. The woman who once seemed like a secondary villain is now the architect of everything, pulling strings with terrifying precision. And as she steps into the role of the true head of the WSB, it becomes clear that she is not just playing a game of survival, she is reshaping the entire narrative. Liesel's control over the WSB is not just about power, it's about obsession. Her obsession with control, with revenge, and with rewriting the rules of the game, has led her down a path where nothing is left to chance. The actions she takes, the people she manipulates, the alliances she forms, they are all part of a larger design to ensure that she is the one who emerges as the ultimate victor. This is no longer just about personal gain, it's about erasing everyone who ever stood in her way. Anna's abduction is only the beginning, the first chapter in a story of manipulation, psychological warfare, and the calculated destruction of anyone who could threaten Liesel's newfound empire. What makes Liesel's obsession even more dangerous is her ability to remain invisible while orchestrating everything from behind the scenes. She is not the flashy, overt villain that others have been. She operates in the shadows, in the quiet spaces where people forget to look. And it is in those spaces that Liesel has built her empire, step by step. Until now she holds the power to destroy anyone who dares to challenge her. Even as the residents of Port Charles continue to search for answers, Liesel's grip on the WSB tightens. And her plans move forward, one calculated move after another. The chaos in Port Charles is no longer random, it is part of a larger, more deliberate design. Liesel's obsession with control has begun to consume everything. Her actions are not merely reactionary, they are proactive steps in a carefully planned strategy to take over the WSB. To eliminate her enemies, and to reshape the world around her. Anna, once the symbol of order and justice, now finds herself a prisoner of Liesel's design. And as Anna struggles to break free, she realizes too late that the woman she once underestimated is the one who has been controlling the game all along. This new obsession, this new phase of manipulation, is only just beginning. Liesel's rise to power is a seismic shift in the world of General Hospital. It is the beginning of a new era, one where she is the undisputed ruler, pulling the strings, manipulating events, and reshaping everything in her image. The question now is not whether Anna will survive the ordeal but whether anyone in Port Charles can stop Liesel before her plans reach their terrifying conclusion. What has become clear is that Liesel's obsession is no longer about personal gain, it is about total domination. She has set the stage for a new world order, one where she is at the helm. And no one will stand in her way. As the true mastermind behind the WSB, Liesel has not just taken control of the organization, she has rewritten the rules of the game, and in doing so, has created a new kind of terror for Port Charles. The chaos, the manipulation, and the psychological games are only just beginning, and Liesel is ready to take this obsession as far as it will go. She has the power, the influence, and the will to reshape everything in her path. The question now is whether anyone can stop her before she consumes Port Charles in the process.